NineTen, NineTen, NineTen in the morning.
Yay. All right, what's up, y'all? 910 podcast episode ? Shanye Quest on the pod. Sean, what are your top 3 favorite nicknames from the past?
Ooh,
you might be the most nicknamed human being I've ever interacted with.
Not on purpose though.
It just happens.
Shanye Quest
That's
is legendary.
Number 1
printed
overall.
in stone. Dwayne the Rock Johnson is up there.
Whoa.
Yes. And then Shonald McDonald.
Ooh.
Which it's just fun to say.
Shonald
You could actually
McDonald.
double that one up and go Shonald McShonald.
Okay.
Which is just too deep into the lore.
That is deep.
Yeah.
That's like Inception.
Yeah.
Whoa.
You have to be ready for it. You can't just throw
You
it
really
out.
do. And then how early on did you start going by Breezy? When did Keeping It Breezy start?
When I moved out here and everyone started re-asking me how to say it, I just was like so over it. And then people just settled for Breezy. And I was like, that's kind of fire.
Because Breazeale.
Yeah. But Allie just pointed out, I've been saying my last name wrong my whole life.
Well, does she have the authority to point something like that
Well,
out?
she pointed it's my whole family's from Texas, so they've just been throwing a twang on it. And I just never questioned it.
Yeah, but if that's where you're from and that's the twang, then it could be correct.
I don't know, man.
What does
Irish
she
Texas.
think? What does she think? Allie is his fiance, by the way.
Breezeal. We looked up like a bunch of websites on pronunciation and unanimously, all in agreement. Just been saying it wrong. The Texas Irish is not really a thing.
Like Brazil, it shouldn't be Brazil. It should be Brazil.
Brazil.
Wow.
I know.
That's earth-shattering.
You're telling me.
Okay, Sean, a lot of 910 folks know who you are, but for those that don't, you grew up at Saddleback. Well,
not really.
Saddleback area.
Yes.
Came to church your senior year of high school. As pretty much an agnostic at that point.
Yeah.
Like had grown up going like, religion's, it's not that it's bad. It just, the conversation never came up at home, around your family. I'm always curious because in ministry, right now you're a high school pastor of one of our campuses here at North Coast. In ministry, you're always trying to create an environment that's like, you belong here. Like, invite culture so somebody could come and check out like a tacky prom or your grilled cheese making competition, which sounds amazing.
Heyo.
And then be like, dang, this is a place I want to come back and check out. But you kind of lived that story.
Yeah.
Right? So what was it initially about church that you came and checked out as a non-churched human being and went, I could mess with this?
Yeah. Pre-church, it was like a couple weeks of fiddling around with the idea of Jesus on my own and just being like, I think I'm into this. And then
because of the YouTube video of the concert.
Yeah.
Lecrae.
I listened to Lecrae, who is kind of off his rocker at the moment. But just like a minor interest in the gospel that really resonated with the like shame and forgiveness that I had been desiring. Just I had never had words for it. So that led me to go like ask a couple friends to go to church, but I had to work through a lot of like, would I even belong there? Could I show up to a church knowing that like I've done bad things? And showing up was like, I was a little bit nervous. Like, am I going to get questioned of like, why am I here? What, like, because a lot of my friends went there from school too. So I was like, dang it. Like, they're going to know that this is my first time here. So I had to work through a lot of that, but showing up was like so opposite. And I think the ministry I showed up to was really prepared to like love a new person. And almost immediately I had a couple friends that knew I was showing up and they like met me immediately, introduced me to a ton of people. And it was so far from what I thought it was. And it was really just like being incorporated into a community out of like their love already overflowing. And all of this, like, I didn't really understand it. I was like very confused. Like, oh my gosh, I've never been so accepted in a place while still feeling like I shouldn't be. And that was like really compelling. I think it was the driving force that brought me back. It wasn't like a good message. It wasn't like the program. It was really like I felt so included, and that drew me to come back the next time.
Yeah. Was that Andy and Darren?
Yeah, they were the ones. So my two neighbors, I grew up in a community, or well, a neighborhood that had like 8 kids that were all believers. And I now know I was like the mission of their like ambassadorship.
Get him.
They're like the one non-believer in the neighborhood.
Yes, that's good.
Yeah, it worked.
Shout out to Andy and Darren. Darren, if you're listening to this, I'm getting a weight room in my gym today. I need a personal trainer.
World's buffest man.
He is maybe the world's buffest man, world's
Yes.
strongest. Okay, interesting. So there's an interesting concept there that you can show up to church and maybe the like message worship stuff doesn't resonate initially. It's a sense of belonging. It's an acceptance.
Yeah.
It's a, wow, this is maybe something I've never experienced before community wise, but you can get that a lot of places,
Totally.
right? Like that's gang mentality. Like
Yes.
why do people stick in gangs? Why do people join chess clubs? I mean, other than the fact that you like chess, but there's a sense of belonging that I think we all crave.
Mm-hmm.
So what was it? How did you take that next step where it was, okay, this is a cool place of belonging to, dang, maybe this is more than just a club that I finally feel like I can find my place in, and it was bigger than that.
Yeah, I think it was the mixture of there is this like question in my soul of like, why do I not like the things that I do? And the mixture of like a group of people that are like seeking that answer as well. And then finding like scripture and all of that. So I think there was there's that tangible answer of like, yes, there is community, there's a place to belong. And right, I think you can go to church and not care about Jesus and still feel like you belong.
Yeah.
And I just think you're gonna hate like the hour of program that is message and worship and go like, why am I here? I don't care. But for those that like I think come there looking for that, I think that there's something where like the tangible love of Jesus is met by the community that like displays it. And that to me was different. Like to join, like I wrestled all through high school. That was my like sport of choice. And to be included in that community, you had to maintain their like love for the sport. You had to work out as hard as they are. And if you didn't, you were like outcasted. You were like considered lame and not like a hard enough worker to be part of the like the crew of acceptance. At church, it was like I walked in not part of the community and I was already like loved, and that to me was a little bit perplexing. Then to learn that like that comes from this love that is like Jesus, that who loved us before any of us could be accepted. And yeah, I think the marrying of a community that displays that like unconditional love while also giving you an answer of like, this is how we've been loved and forgiven. Yeah, I think there was like a glue that really solidified it as something legit and worth exploring.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Sean, you're a fairly tattooed human being.
Yes, sir.
What's currently your favorite tattoo that you have?
My favorite? Ooh. I've got the Narnia castle. I think that's my like favorite to think about and reflect on why I got that tattoo.
Yeah, you went deep into the Chronicles of Narnia there for a minute.
Yeah, dude, it was a little intense. I read one book in like a day.
They're great books.
They really are.
They're phenomenal.
Yeah, I'd never read them. Like I the more I've interacted with people that grew up in church, like, oh yeah, I read those when I was 8, and I felt a little insecure of my reading choice.
Yeah, but like the people who have read it at 8, if you read it again at 20 and then
It's
at 30,
mind-blowing.
it's just as good.
I feel like I learned so much about like the Bible while reading it.
Absolutely.
And I've never had a clear understanding of like what it is to be a person of a kingdom.
Absolutely. They're so good. I mean, the whole, I think somebody used this in a sermon recently. I don't remember where it was, the Jordan or NineTen or something. I don't remember. But the whole like concept of like, it was Scott in NineTen. He talked about the line where it was like, is Aslan safe? And he's like, no, he's not safe.
Not at all.
But he is good.
Yes.
It's like,
Oh man.
that understanding of, even visually, like when you watch the movie, just seeing the Aslan character, it just makes you long to know God that much more. That's
100%.
the brilliance of C.S. Lewis.
It's so good.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's nuts. Have you ever tried to think about, like, I always think about like Tolkien and Lewis coming up with the world of Chronicles of Narnia, or the world of
I couldn't imagine.
Two Towers, Return of the
Lord
King.
of the
Lord of the
Rings.
Rings. Thank you. Like the fact that they came up with an entire universe is just bananas.
They had to have
names and maps and places and rivers and
like those notebooks. I think have to be like the most cherished
and Lewis.
thing ever.
It's not even that he did it once; he did it multiple times.
In
like his space series.
Yeah, I haven't read them, but I want to.
Oh my gosh,
Like, that's my summer endeavor.
Dude, if you have time this summer, you should read those books.
Yeah,
take them on your honeymoon. Because they're
yes, sir.
It blows your mind. It's the same thing. It just makes you long to know God that much more.
Yeah.
Because he comes up with this whole universe within. It's just as nuts. Like I can't even make up a cool name. Like if you just try to come up with a name that doesn't exist, like I struggle. I'm like
Florgborg.
Yeah,
that sounds lame.
That's actually not bad.
Oh, thanks. Cool.
That's not half bad.
Cool.
But Lewis comes up with like a universe. It's nuts.
It is nuts.
So if you haven't read Chronicles of Narnia yet, read them. If you haven't read his space trilogy, highly recommend. Also good. They're also an audiobook. I listened to an entire one of the space trilogy books on a drive to Bodega Bay and back over COVID. And it's you know a book is good when you don't want to get out of your car. You've like arrived at your destination.
Yes.
And then you sit in your car for another like 45 minutes because you don't want to stop. You don't want to stop listening.
The freshmen on this podcast are like, what's a car?
What's a car? What's an audiobook? What's a book? Is that like TikTok? Yes, but longer
and better.
I'm just kidding. You're not that dumb. You know what books are. Okay, so that's your favorite. What's your tattoo that you consistently, whenever you catch a glimpse of it, you kind of go,
oh yeah. I have a tattoo of the Kool-Aid Man riding a shark, which is an actual flavor. And
shark flavor?
It's called Sharkleberry Fin. You know what's funny? Two of my boys over at RB, they were telling me how they met, and they're like, yeah, in 4th grade, we were drinking a shark-flavored Kool-Aid, and that's how we became best friends. And I was like, wait,
you're like, me too.
I have that tattooed on my body. And they were like, are we best friends? I was like, yes, we are.
Did we just
I never thought that would be a tool of ministry, but it is.
That's amazing. That's good. I think my my tattoo that I consistently
I was gonna ask
a glimpse of. Yeah, I'll just answer it for you. I don't need to be asked questions. Sorry.
That's fair.
I'm forward like that.
I'm overstepping.
No, the one that makes me laugh the most is actually it's this one.
The elephant.
It's my elephant one because my dad and I, we were in Thailand together, like you do, and we were putting on these camps for missionary kids over there, and it was our second time there, and we always took the team to this like black market area. And you can buy like fake Patagonia stuff and like fake, because all that stuff is coming from China.
Pre-used liver.
Well, not that intense. It's not like fake passports and stuff. I'm sure that did exist. We just weren't at that particular black market. So we were. You could buy all this stuff and it's like legit. I mean, it's not legit, but you couldn't really tell the difference.
About as close as it can get.
As close as you could possibly get to fake Patagonia. And so, once you've been there, you've kind of been there. And so my dad and I were roaming around. We got an hour-long foot massage for $4.
Sounds like my actual worst nightmare.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. And then you put your feet in the fish tank, and these tiny little fish come and they like nibble the dead skin off your feet.
Nope.
It's wild, dude. And then we stumbled upon this little, like, it was literally like a glass box, like a 12 by 12 glass box. And there was a dude sitting in there tattooing. And I was like, I mean, I'm not down. And so we go in, I like check out his needles and all this stuff. It's all sealed. And I'm like, okay, like I feel pretty good about this, like low risk of hepatitis. And so I'm like, Dad, me and you, man, let's get a tattoo right now. And he's like, I'm down. My dad has 0 tattoos. I'm the only human in my entire family that has tattoos.
Wow. You rebel.
I think I have like some cousins that are tatted.
That's
fair. Like my immediate family. And so I'm like, Dad's down. Let's freaking do this. We had ridden elephants earlier that day, which was a wild experience in and of itself. I fed an elephant a banana in my mouth. Like I held the banana and homie used his trunk to literally take it. It was wild. It was like terrifying. Like Aslan, you know? It's like
you're like, that elephant's cute.
He's not safe, but he is good.
I'm a stomp away from dying.
He's good. And so we walk in there, and I'm like asking the guy in broken, right? He's got broken English. I have like 2 words in Thai, and I'm like, hey, do you have an elephant? He's like, well, I just drew this, and he literally had just drawn this elephant. So I sit down, I get it tattooed, and then I'm like, Dad, like you're up, and he's like, nah, I'm good.
Oh, Phil.
and just bailed.
What a punk.
Punk, man.
You really fell for that.
Still hasn't been tested. I know. Why didn't I make him go first?
You 100% should have.
Rookie mistake. All right, Sean, we got 5 minutes left here.
Ooh.
You were in 910 for like 6 years, 5 years?
Yeah, 6.
Something like that, which is crazy. And now stepped out into a role leading a ministry.
Yeah.
What have you been learning in the last year about God, ministry, life? Like the last couple years for you have been just drinking from a fire hose,
Honestly,
right? Like you started going to Bible school. You started dating this girl, Allie, who's freaking awesome.
The GOAT.
And you went out on your own into this ministry and became a leader of that ministry. Like so many things happening in life. What are some of those, as you take a step back, 30,000-foot view, what are some of those things you look at that you're like, whoa, this is what I'm taking in right now. This is what I'm learning. This is what I'm excited about.
Yeah. I went on a trip to kind of, I think, get away from all of the noise a little bit. And that was something you encouraged me to do every now and then, and drove up to Santa Cruz. And one of the things that I just felt like God was revealing to me is that I had like barely scratched the surface of knowing him. And that was really like, I was like, no, I just did 6 years of youth ministry. Like, I know you, God. And the more I sat with him, the more I went, I think that that's true, but I haven't even like stepped into all that you are. And that kind of was my prayer of just like, God, I want to know you. Like, I really want to know you. And like you would a friend, or
I want to know you,
Lord.
like I know a friend.
Thanks for that blessing. And yeah, that I think that kind of set off this journey. And I think the area that was like painful to realize is I didn't know him as a dad, as a father. And I like, you ever pray a prayer that you're a little bit nervous to pray? You're like,
Yeah.
where you're just like, I feel like I might be setting myself up for like some hardship here.
Yeah.
You
ever mumble the line in the song, "Break my heart for what breaks yours"?
Nope. What is that? Is this one of those like you grew up in church thing?
No.
Okay.
I think you would know it. I think it's.
Oh, old Hillsong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
Okay.
break my heart for what breaks yours.
Perfect timing. Stepped into church in its popularity.
But that whenever that line popped out, I was like,
You're like, man, but not too
like
much.
I'm not sure I want a broken heart like yours.
And so that kind of became a prayer that I started praying. I was like, I think if I ask to really know you, I'm going to have to like endure some hardship. And I feel like in that, God really, set me on a journey to walk through some things that were pretty difficult, but revealed a lot of opportunity to know him deeper. And so one of the things that my professor said is that often you have high moments and they're more for the people around you, where you experience victory in your life. It's probably more for grabbing the attention of those around you. And he then said, he's like, but when you experience low moments, it's more often that God's trying to pull you deeper into him. And he referenced Elijah sitting in the peak win of his life, where he's like this major victory over the prophets of Baal and displays the glory of God, and people's hearts turn back to God. And he goes, but God wasn't grabbing Elijah's attention in that moment. But he goes, the second after that, Elijah's threatened by his life, and he hits the lowest moment of his life, and that's where God meets him. And
Dang,
I feel like
that's good.
Yeah, I feel like I met probably one of the lowest moments of my life 2 months ago, just with this storm of events that happened. And in that, though, as hard as it was, I think I've never had such an opportunity to know God and really just be like his kid and be hurt, and and that's kind of bled into all areas, right? Of like trying to finish school, getting married, trying to figure out family, and just like what it is to be the only Christian in my family. But then to like go back to a God who's like, I got you, bud. Like, I love you. I want to walk through this with you. I want to like grow you in this. And how available he's been. And I think there's a fear that's like, like if I go through hardship, will he actually show up? And I like stand on 2 months out from those moments going like, oh yeah, like I'm excited to look back at those moments and go, I think that's where the Lord grew me the most. So
Dang, so good. Ironically, you didn't even listen to it, but sometimes the Holy Spirit works this way. That's what Arnold taught in 910 this weekend, and and taught through Exodus 14, when Israel finds the Egyptian army at its back, and the Red Sea in front of them, and goes like, were there not enough graves for us in Egypt? Like, why did you bring us out here to die? And looking at that, like when we find ourselves in the wilderness, when we find ourselves in a fearful moment, so often we look to like blame shift or complain or get out of the situation. And Arnold challenged NineTen not to waste our wilderness, you know. And I love what you said of so often we crave those mountaintop moments, you know, going like, this is where I want to experience God. But yeah, you're right. Like those can be so good and celebrated, but they also don't necessarily draw me deeper in the ways that hardship does.
Yeah.
And if you ask anybody, right, like I love doing this with our intern crew, I love doing this with our staff, I love doing it with our leadership retreats, like 3 significant moments in your life that kind of define who you are. Very rarely are they wins. Like more often than not, the moments that form us are really gnarly experiences that we go through. And then watching either God's faithfulness or, you know, community surround you in that moment, or a shift of what's important in life. That's fascinating though. I love that. I want to look at that Elijah story now through that lens of, yeah, you're totally right. Like when he wins with the prophets of Baal, it's not like he's like, wow, me and you, God. He's witnessing God's power, but it's probably more for the surrounding nation. But when he's alone in the desert asking to die, and God provides for him, and then shows up in a whisper, what an intimate moment between him and God.
Yeah.
And yet, maybe the gnarliest moment of his life.
And it fires him back up. He's like, all right, pick yourself up by the bootstraps and get back out there.
Yeah.
As he has this like difficult moment with God.
Yeah.
It's good.
Dang, bars. Well, Sean McDonald, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Sean Breezy. Thanks for joining us on the NineTen podcast.
Anytime. Love NineTen.
It was a pleasure. 20 minutes flew by.
Yes.
Good times.
Good time.
Community youth.
Miss you all.
I'm repping you. I'm repping you right here.
See you at summer camp.
Y'all better all watch this one.
We'll be there.
Summer camp together. Aww.
Yes. We're back.
Run it back.
I'd give you a high five, but there's like a labyrinth to get through.
Nux right here. Peace out, Cub Scouts.